So, my name is Mel. I'm not here to sell you a course. I'm not a coach, I'm not a guru, and I'm definitely not someone who figured everything out. I'm just a guy in his early 30s who's been through enough to know what I wish someone had told me earlier. I game, I drive, I think too much, and somewhere in between all of that, I picked up a few things about life that actually matter. This channel is for the younger version of me, the guy who had no idea what he was doing, who was surrounded by the wrong people, who chased the wrong things, and who took way too long to figure out what really counts. If any of that sounds familiar, stick around.
There's a question I kept asking myself through most of my early 20s, and I hear other guys ask it constantly. Why does it feel like I'm doing so much, but nothing is actually moving forward? You wake up tired, you go to bed feeling behind, you're working, you're trying, you're busy, and yet nothing seems to compound into anything real. And for a long time, I was convinced the answer was simple. I just needed more time. If I had one more hour in the day, if I could clear my schedule for a week and really focus, everything would click into place. But that's not it. That was never it. Because time without the fuel to actually use it is worth absolutely nothing. And nobody talks about that. Everyone is obsessed with managing their time, with being more productive, with squeezing more out of the day. And they completely skip the part where you need energy to make any of that work. What I want to get into today comes down to 3 things that genuinely changed how I think about progress. The first is that time is not your most valuable resource. Energy is. And most of us are burning through it every single day without realizing it. The second is why one intense, hyper-focused day of grinding will almost always lose in the long run to a simple, boring, consistent routine. And the third is a distinction I think is one of the most important things you can understand in your 20s. The difference between what I call straight paths and dart paths, and why mixing them up is one of the main reasons so many guys feel stuck even when they're putting in effort. Think about someone who is 70 years old, someone who has everything, money, status, a full life behind them. Now imagine that person looking at you right now, wherever you are. Do you think they would trade everything they've built to be your age again, every single time, without hesitation? Because here's the thing, time is valuable. Yes, everybody knows that, but time without energy is useless. You can have 10 free hours in front of you, and if you're running on empty, if you're stressed, anxious, drained by your environment, carrying mental weight you just can't seem to put down, those 10 hours will produce almost nothing. But give someone 2 hours with full energy, full clarity, a clear head, and watch what they can build with it. And this is where I think a lot of guys in their 20s get it wrong. We're taught to manage our time, to schedule our days, to be productive. But nobody really teaches you to protect your energy. And energy isn't just about being physically tired. It goes much deeper than that. Every time you sit in a job where you feel disrespected and you have no exit plan, that's costing you energy. Every unresolved financial stress that sits in the back of your head, even when you're not actively thinking about it, that's quietly draining the battery. Every toxic situation in your life where you feel like you have no control, every relationship that takes more than it gives, every decision you've been avoiding for months, all of it is running in the background like apps you forgot to close, and it's eating up resources you need for actually building something. When the battery is at 20%, it doesn't matter how much time you have. You're not going to use it well. So, before you think about being more productive, before you reorganize your schedule again, the more honest question is what is draining your energy right now, and what would it take to stop that? Not fix everything at once, just stop the bleeding. Get one source of anxiety from, I have no idea what I do, do I have a plan if this falls apart? You would be surprised how much mental space opens up when you're not burning energy on background stress every waking hour. Now here's something I fell for constantly in my 20s, and I still see guys fall for it all the time. The hyper-focus trap. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Something clicks, you get motivated, you decide this is the moment, and you go completely all in for one day. You work for 12 hours, you eat perfectly, you work out twice, you read, you plan everything out, you feel unstoppable, and then you crash. And that crash costs you 3 days, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, just getting back to where you were before the whole thing started. And in the end, you've made less progress than if you'd just done something simple and sustainable every single day without any of the drama. There's a reason people talk about compound interest when it comes to money, but almost nobody applies that same thinking to themselves. If you invest consistently over time, even small amounts, even boring amounts, it grows in ways that feel almost impossible to believe until you actually see it. The growth isn't visible day to day. It barely feels like anything month to month, but after years, the numbers are undeniable. And the exact same principle applies to your body, your mind, your skills, your career. You don't feel the compound effect after a week of consistency. You barely feel it after a month, but you absolutely feel it after a year. And after 5 years, you look back and you're a completely different person. The problem is that our brains are wired for immediate feedback. You work out hard for 3 days and you expect to see results. You work on your business for a week and expect clients. And when it doesn't come that fast, the motivation dies and you go back to zero. What actually works is boring. It's sustainable. It's a planned day, a routine you can execute even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired, even when life is messy. Not perfect, not intense, just consistent. I read something in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics that stuck with me. Think about how a missile works. When you lock in a destination, it doesn't fly in a perfect straight line. Wind pushes it, forces knock it off course, but the missile constantly makes tiny corrections, 1 degree, 2 degrees, and keeps recalibrating toward the target the whole way there. You don't need a perfect plan before you start. You need a direction and the ability to keep adjusting as you go. The people who make real progress aren't the ones who had everything figured out from day one. They're the ones who started, got knocked off course, corrected, and kept moving. This is something I genuinely wish someone had explained to me clearly at 20, because understanding it changes the way you approach almost everything. Not all progress works the same way. There are 2 completely different types of paths in life, and confusing them will silently destroy your momentum. The first type I call a straight path. These are areas where effort directly and predictably produces results. Your body is the clearest example. If you train consistently, you get stronger. That's just how it works. If you eat well, sleep well, take care of yourself, your body changes. There is no mystery, no luck involved, no algorithm to beat. If you work on your mind, reading, meditating, reflecting on your experiences, you will think more clearly over time. If you practice a skill with real intention, you will get better at it. These paths are essentially guaranteed. The relationship between input and output is reliable and honest. And once you really understand that, it's incredibly powerful because it means there are entire areas of your life where you are completely in control of the outcome. You just have to actually show up. But then there's the second type, the dart path. Imagine standing in front of a dartboard. You throw, you aim, you're trying to hit the bullseye, but you don't always hit it. You might throw 10 times and miss. You might throw 50 times. But the more throws you make, the more likely you are to eventually hit it. The improvement isn't linear. You can't predict exactly when it happens. But one thing you can say with absolute certainty: if you never throw, you never hit. Business is a dart path. Building a career is a dart path. Cold outreach, finding clients, putting creative work into the world, and waiting for it to connect. All dart paths. You send out 200 job applications and one of them becomes something. You pitch to 40 potential clients and 2 say yes. You create consistently for a year and then suddenly something resonates and everything shifts. You cannot control exactly when it clicks, but you can control how many throws you make. When I was looking for work, I tracked every application on a spreadsheet. I wrote down 150, but the real number was over 200. I threw the darts. One stuck. That's how it works. The mistake that kills most people is applying the wrong logic to the wrong type of path. They expect dart path results from straight path work. They meditate for 2 weeks and wonder why their whole life hasn't transformed. Or they apply straight path thinking to dart path problems. They send 5 cold emails, hear nothing back, and conclude it doesn't work and give up. 5 throws is nothing. You need volume. You need patience. You need to keep throwing even when you can't see what's coming. So to bring this together, energy is the foundation of everything. Without it, time is just a number. Protect your energy like it's the most valuable thing you have, because it genuinely is. Build systems instead of relying on motivation spikes. Consistent effort will always outrun the guy who burns bright, crashes, and has to start over. And understand which type of path you're on. Some areas of your life will give you guaranteed results if you just keep showing up. Other areas require volume, patience, and the willingness to throw a lot of darts before one finds its mark. Knowing the difference changes how you approach your entire day. If any of this landed for you, let me know in the comments. I genuinely want to hear where you're at with this stuff. And if you know someone in their 20s who's grinding hard but feeling stuck and can't figure out why, send them this. Sometimes you just need to hear the right thing at the right moment. I'll see you in the next one.